Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then we're available on demand and available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Tuesday, September 12, 2023. We're live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same models of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ plus community. Our mission? Support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbians and queer women, trans, student youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS, healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network. Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, let's welcome anchor Bad Papi. Bad Papi is a Latina gender-fluid drag artist who redefines what it means to be trans and non-binary in the Latin community. And they perform to popular Latin songs, providing a humorous and often insightful take on gender roles in Latin America to forward LGBTQ plus rights and empower the LGBTQ plus Latin community. Bad Papi is an icon for the Latin LGBTQ plus community and will forever be the baddest Papi in town. Welcome, Papi.
Thank you. I'm Kenough and excited to be here.
And I love that song. It's going to win the Academy Award. All right, let's welcome John Hayden. He's a journalist for 28 years. He now works for several outlets, including Out South Florida as senior reporter and community editor. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Al. I've been off for a couple weeks, but it's really great to be back. And oh my gosh, there's so much stuff coming up. I look forward to talking all about it tonight.
I'm sorry you were gone?
Yeah. Love you too, Al.
Let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro, an inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. Gregg is the author of 9 books. His entertainment coverage, including celebrity interviews, runs in a variety of print and online publications. Welcome, Gregg.
Hello, hello. Well, Wednesday night, Poetry and Prose Club at the monthly literary event that I host at Aperitivo in Wilton Manors, 2468 North Wilton Drive. We're welcoming gay writer Neil Plaxey tomorrow at 7 p.m., September 13th.
Excellent. I interviewed him.
He's a fun guy, isn't he?
Super fun.
And he's a dog lover.
Yes.
Aww. He's a good boy.
Yeah. All right. So we are the reporters for Queer News Tonight. And this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Tuesday, September 12th. Let's queer up sports. Greater Fort Lauderdale's Florida Panthers season starts in October. The Florida Panthers regular season is going to start on October 19th with the Florida Panthers versus Toronto Maple Leafs. 2023-24 Florida Panthers single game tickets are now on sale, and you can buy them at FLA Live, Arena, box office, or online. Florida Panthers territory members will receive special benefits and experiences all season long as the Cats celebrate their 30th anniversary this season. Florida's 25-man roster for the Prospect Showcase consists of 14 forwards, 8 defensemen, and 3 goaltenders. Home of the Florida Panthers NHL team, and an A-list concerts and events included. FLA Live Arena is a complete entertainment venue with 12 function areas for parties, seminars, meetings, and cocktail receptions. Hockey has a reputation as being the most exciting live sport in the world, and there is no hockey like Florida Panthers hockey. With more than 40 home games this season, there are plenty of opportunities to take in all of the incredible action on the ice, while also enjoying the world-renowned amenities that make FLA Live Arena the preeminent sports and entertainment venue in Florida. The Florida Panthers are a great reason to visit Lauderdale. Everyone under the sun. You know, I love this venue. I saw Cher at FLA, and I think it was her last concert, the claimed ones. It's a great venue. I love doing this story also because it's a misnomer in LGBTQ community. I'm going to beat Gregg to the joke of sports ball. First, there are no balls involved in hockey.
Puck everyone.
Yes, exactly. But sports is a growing interest of topic for the LGBTQ community, and hockey is a fun sport.
All 4 of our South Florida professional teams are openly embracing of the LGBTQ plus community. But what I really love about the Panthers is, one, they were in the finals last year, so this season is going to be rocking. It's going to be really fun. But also, when we were at Pride Fest a few weeks ago, they had a tent and a booth there, staffed with people handing out stuff and pitching the full season. They support us beyond Pride Night in March, which, by the way, is worth going to. It's always very fun. But they're a year-round commitment to our community, and I would love to see us get maybe some other group together and go to a game.
Oh, that'd be fun.
One night this season, and we're going to take you, and you're going to have fun, and we're going to get you popcorn, and you're going to have fun, Greg.
Let's do that.
My fur is still in storage, but I was actually unaware of the number of LGBTQ plus hockey fans out there until I saw the Stanley Cup won by the Chicago Blackhawks in the Chicago Pride Parade in 2010. They actually had it. They had a float and they had the Stanley Cup.
Oh, excellent.
Well, I'm obviously not a sport gay, but I appreciate that. A sport gay. I'm not a sport gay, but I do appreciate that there's, some cool sport that detracts from the summer heat. Here in Florida, so
that's right, especially on ice.
Yep.
and the autumn heat and the spring heat.
Yeah. Oh gosh,
it's what makes Fort Lauderdale so good.
Yeah, it is. Fort Lauderdale's awesome. Well, next, let's queer up entertainment. Lil Nas X documentary targeted by bomb threat at film festival, delaying release. The world premiere of Lil Nas X's documentary, Lil Nas X: Long Live Montero, at Toronto International Film Festival was delayed due to a bomb threat potentially targeting the artist. Organizers were informed of the threat, causing Lil Nas X to delay his arrival. Co-directors Carlos Lopez Estrada and Zach Manuel, as well as editor Andrew Morrow, were already on the red carpet when the threat was received. A source tells Variety the threat specifically targeted Lil Nas X, though a Film Fest rep said it was a general threat and not directed at the film or artist. They did say Toronto police told them of an investigation near the red carpet and that standard security measures will remain in place. After a 20-minute delay and a security sweep, Lil Nas X joined his team on the red carpet, and the screening began around 10:30 p.m. in Toronto. I've covered Toronto International Film Festival, or TIFF, many times. This is always an amazing week up there because you see what are going to be awards-based films. I have a feeling this one is going to get some documentary love as we move in towards awards season. And I never felt unsafe there. Like police, I always felt like they were on top of their game, whether you were just going to do interviews at a hotel with stars or if you were going to a screening. So I'm glad to hear everyone was okay. I don't like that there's some confusion. Was it directed at him? I mean, it's easy to project that something would have been targeting him. But there's a lot of crazies out there. But I'm just glad that Lil Nas was able to come get his red carpet love that he so deserves.
Well, you know, the end of the world is coming when film festivals are getting bomb threats. I mean, seriously, film festivals, that's just completely ridiculous. But let's hope that Lil Nas X, Long Live Montero, isn't a box office bomb as well.
Oh,
Too soon, Greg. Too soon.
that's right. Canada just did a collective.
Well, Lil Nas X actually looked extremely fabulous in the red carpet. Let me tell you, I mean, that hair was astounding. Everything.
It was.
I know. Like, I wish I had hair like that.
As do Greg and I.
There's a lot of truth to that statement. You know, the one thing that is a surprise to me is Canada doesn't basically protest anything. No. Canada is Canada for a reason. It's Canada. It's an indication of this creep that's going on, largely exported out of the United States. You know, Canada has said, for example, we have a warning for our LGBTQ community of traveling to the United States and certain states. And while they did not specifically say Florida, they meant Florida and Texas and Tennessee and, well, you get it. And this is kind of reverse creep back into Canada. Why you would call a bomb threat in, and very likely it was an absolute fake, but it's an indication of some of, even in, you know, moderate of the moderate Neutral. Of the Canadians, the neutrals in Canada, of how this is tricking and trickling in.
Oh, yeah.
And the protest over Lil Nas X and this film is obviously the target of it, which is sad to me. It's just a new reality that we've just got to get used to. The reason this makes the show tonight is because it's Toronto. If this was in Atlanta, we wouldn't even think twice about it. If this was in Dallas, we wouldn't even think twice about it. If this was in Tallahassee, it might have happened. So as a result, you know, it's a situation where the story relevance here is because it's Canada and it's Toronto.
Yes.
Well, next, let's queer up trans rights. Elon Musk slams new California bill that guides families of trans kids during divorce. A new California bill headed to the governor's desk will force judges to weigh which parent is better at affirming their kid's gender during a nasty divorce, which Elon Musk thinks is BS. The Twitter/X chief lashed out online, denouncing the proposed law as outrage. This comment came as the word came down that California's state legislature had passed the controversial legislation AB 957 after it got voted on in the state assembly by a wide margin. He wrote, quote, "This bill is a wolf in sheep's clothing," end quote. The new bill pertains to family court. Basically, judges will now have to take into consideration whether a child is better suited to live if the parents are fighting over custody, and gender affirmation is going to be a new key criteria in making that determination. It's not the only thing a judge will mull over, but it will officially be part of the list. So if one parent is resisting their child transitioning, that could spell trouble in front of a judge. Clearly, Elon feels a certain way about it, echoing conservatives who were also angry, not to mention certain advocacy groups who've been protesting the bill for months. The reason it's interesting coming from Elon is because of his own family history. It's no secret that Musk has a transgender child who was assigned male at birth, but has since transitioned to female. I think Elon Musk is just mad that trans women are better lovers than him.
Well said.
I'm sorry, but Elon Musk, you know, I think he has such a gripe with the transgender community because, well, one, of jealousy, and two, because he feels emasculated by them, and his masculinity is just so fragile that he can't stand to see trans people living their own lives. And I think, to be honest, this bill is important especially considering that youth experience high suicide rates with parents who don't affirm their gender. When a child gets, when a parent gets the child's pronouns wrong, that child has about 50% increase of committing suicide. So bills like these are very important to protect children and to continue aiding them in their transition.
You know, it's interesting to me. Let's talk about the bill specifically a moment, not Musk. It's interesting to me that first and foremost, there's a compare and contrast of what California can do and what Florida cannot. This law is impossible in Florida.
Oh, absolutely.
It passes, it gets through the House overwhelming in its overwhelming majority. Yes, there's radical evangelicals and there's radical GOP that are against it, but they're a very significant minority voice. Overwhelmingly, there's the support here. And the argument overwhelmingly by media, editorial boards of newspapers in California, by the general public of support of this. What we're watching in terms of the attacks on trans community is different here in California, because at the end of the day, this bill is saying if it comes down to a decision of where we're going to make decisions on custody, this has to be a consideration point. Because why would you put a trans child in a household that is adverse and objectioned to the trans child?
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Yes.
And that's what this law is about. And these kind of voices, including his, just tears the narrative away to try to move from the trans youth that needs protection to the politics of trans, and the exact reason why it shouldn't be listened to.
Now, I would like to bring it back to Musk for a little bit. You talked on his horribleness on trans issues. I'd just like to pile on a little bit. There's a new book out today by Walter Isaacson. It's been well hyped. Some of it's already being walked back, but basically it talks about how he has potentially interfered in the Ukraine war, how he's basically running his own shadow diplomacy. The Financial Times has been reporting on this since March. Rowan Farrow had a great article on it last month. He's just a bad person, and he's got his outsized wealth is giving him outsized influence in the world. I mean, he is a dangerous, dangerous person, and Farrow pointed out that his lines that he comes out basically parrot whatever Russia has just said or what Republican talking points for the day are. He might have never talked about it before, but then all of a sudden he has a phone call with Putin or someone in the Republican Party, and that's what's on X/Twitter.
Well, with 11 kids, we all know that his paternal history isn't great, especially since Vivian took their mother's surname, got rid of the name Musk and took their mother's surname. That's Happy Father's Day.
You know, can we take that even one step farther? You know, Elon Musk might have some credibility in talking about what family court decision making should be in California if he didn't have his own experiences.
Yeah, right.
The new book that you just referenced, I read an entire excerpt that they've published on it, talking about his relationship with his father. And his father and him have not spoken in years and years and years. And the reason is, principally supporting Elon Musk, that his father was a horrible, horrible person and damaged the psyche of Elon Musk as a child on how badly he was treated as a child growing up by his father, which is why Elon Musk never wanted to have anything more to do with his father, including communicating with him. It's interesting to me, at the top of the tree, that's the relationship of parent and child. Then he has a child that dislikes now her father so much that she goes, I want nothing to do with him. I don't want his name. I don't want association with him. I don't want any possibility that we will flow back and forth together. And I'm willing to go so far as to giving up billions of dollars of inheritance.
Yeah.
And this is the voice we're going to listen to about family planning in California, I'm sorry, Elon Musk, you don't have an ounce of credibility to tell Californians what or how the courts should decide what happens to children in family situations.
Let's just say his trans child is not ending up in his home.
That's right.
According to California. It's been made.
California decided. Right?
Next, let's queer up business. MacKenzie Scott uses Jeff Bezos' divorce money to support LGBTQ plus causes. A new report from the Movement Advancement Project says that MacKenzie Scott's philanthropy has been hugely helpful to LGBTQ plus organizations, not just because of the size of her donations, but because of their unrestricted nature. Many individuals and foundations that make grants to charitable groups specify the type of projects the money must go to and require the groups to report how the funds were used. But from 2019 to the spring of 2023, Scott, a billionaire who was once married to Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, has made $14 billion worth of unrestricted gifts. MAP looked at 28 LGBTQ plus or inclusive groups that received grants totaling $163 million from Scott from 2020 to 2022. She donated to 7 other organizations in this category, but the figures from them were not available. MAP obtained information from the 28 through a survey in which 18 of them participated, plus public records and other sources for the remaining 10. Compared to the overall group of organizations that received grants from Scott, LGBTQ plus ones were slightly more likely to spend the new money on increasing salaries or benefits, slightly less likely to spend it on professional development for staff, and somewhat less likely to use it to expand existing programs or set up a cash reserve. Well, I sincerely hope that some or all of these LGBTQ plus and inclusive groups that have benefited from Scott's donations have found ways to honor her for her generosity. She definitely deserves something named after her, perhaps. But actually, I was wondering, does anybody know if there are any Florida groups that have benefited from her?
I don't.
Well, I only know that FIU received funding from her. And, you know, even though FIU is not LGBT per se, it is a public university and does fund LGBT initiatives like the Pride Center and the Pride Student Union. So that's one that I've heard.
You know, I'll tell you, this story doesn't surprise me at all. And this is not an FU to her husband. Like, it's not like Jeff's anti-gay and she's giving all this money for spite. They have been a very supportive couple when they were a couple for a long, long time. When marriage equality was on the ballot, affirmatively on the ballot in 2012, they donated $5 million of their personal wealth. And that goes a long way in a state with a population like Washington. So they've been supporting us for a long time. And it's really great to see that she's taken, and she announced when she got the divorce settlement, you know, which was half of everything, and that she was just going to give it away. And it's great to see that she's following up on it and that she is publicly an LGBTQ plus ally. And this just warms my heart.
You know, one last thought about MacKenzie Scott. This story is so big and is so broad in its breadth of understanding, I don't even think it washes over us how big it is. And I don't think, as a listener right now watching Queer News Tonight, they understand the significance of this. In South Florida, we fight in our 501c3s, Equality Florida and SAVE, the Pride organizations, etc., and so on, trans organizations. We're fighting over so little. And along comes MacKenzie Scott, and just to echo, try to quantify in your head giving away $14 billion undirected. Now, that's really important because for those that donate money, directed money grant means that we're telling you exactly where you can spend the money and you can't spend it any other place. This donation and the commitment of donation is so much more significant because that restriction is not in place. Because what MacKenzie Scott is saying is, no, I'm willing to give the money without having a lot of strings attached to it. And so you can make the decisions of where you're spending the money because you'll be better as a decision maker to do it. Now, you're going to come back to me and ask for more money, so you probably want to do a really good job with it. But to start with, let's not control you. Wow. That is unbelievable.
Absolutely.
In the history of the world, I will go this far. Bill Gates is still the most significant charitable donor ever in the history of the planet. The organization of the Gates Foundation and all of the money that have come in from so many other places and what they're doing and funding and charitable in the world is unequaled ever in world history. But MacKenzie Scott, when she finishes, will not be at that level, but it'll be pretty close. And I would argue, because of the nature of what she's doing and in unrestricted fashion, as example, what she's doing with LGBT charities, her impact is almost unparalleled in world history. That's how big this story is. And my goodness, how can we do anything other than say, thank you, MacKenzie Scott.
Well, up next, let's queer up technology. Dictionary.com adds gay, marry, and other LGBTQ plus terms. Dictionary.com has released its seasonal batch of new words. Many of them are gloriously gay. As Dictionary.com explains, the new additions represent the always evolving nature of English, which is why Nepo Baby and Big Pharma also made the cut. That's also why Dictionary.com's lexicographers made a dictionary-wide change for this update, working to replace binary pronouns in various definitions. Rather than saying his or her, many such instances have been replaced with their, or have been rewritten to remove pronouns altogether. Dictionary.com lexicographer K.E. Calloway wrote in the website's update post that the change was made for inclusivity and usage. As far as new terms go, Dictionary.com added gay marry as a verb, which of course means to marry a person of the same gender. Stealth, the term used to refer to trans people who pass as cisgender full-time without revealing that they're trans, was also included in this round of updates. Amalgagender, for one, refers to someone whose gender identity is informed by the fact that they are intersex. Also included are autosexual and autoromantic, which refer to people whose primary sexual romantic attraction is directed towards themselves, much like many of the people I've dated. This is good. I love inclusivity, but I have to take issue. I don't like the term gay marry. I don't like gay marry. I don't like gay marriage. It others ourselves. And we say it here on the show, and I get it. We say marriage past or this. We should say marriage equality, because that's what it is. It brings us equal. To say gay marry makes it sound like we are different, that we are set aside, that we are not the same, and we are. So I don't like that part.
Well, as a writer, it does make my heart swell to witness the expansion of the language. And I hope someday to find a place for these words in a review, a poem, or a short story, or a personal essay. So
language is constantly evolving, and I also appreciate that now they're finally realizing that pronouns don't have to be just she and her. You know, we've been using their all our time. When somebody drops a pen and we don't know whose pen that is, we say, who is this pen belong to? They left their pen, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and now they're including it in the dictionary, and that's like extremely affirming and like just significant to non-binary people all across the world.
You know, it's interesting to me, to the point that you just made. You reference the pronoun designation. Of course, it's much more, historically, is much more important to you than it is to me. When we started focusing a couple of years ago on pronoun designation, my eyes would roll up in the back of my head of going, oh, come on, y'all, what's the big deal? Well, the idiocy was not of the pronouns. The idiocy was Al's eyes rolling up into the back of his head, because it is important. Mm-hmm. And it takes time to understand that. And for me, pronouns sitting next to you is interesting, because now I realize the problem was never you. The problem was always me. And as a result, when we make the commitment to say, well, first, can we just accept and respect that is their preference? And if we can do that, then we can start to move to a place where I am today, which is no problem on the pronouns because it represents respect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what dictionary.com is doing.
Absolutely.
Dictionary.com is saying our language evolves, and they have to evolve and help us push along in evolving. The other thing that I love about what dictionary.com has done is when they announced these words and the definitions that they added in three very specific places in the country, at Liberty University, at Lynchburg, at Southern Baptist Convention in Nashville, and in the governor's mansion in Tallahassee. When dictionary.com did this, you could hear heads explode. And so therefore, dictionary.com did us a nice favor.
Now, here's a sneak peek at what we're working on at Out South Florida this week. This week in Out South Florida, powered by Queer News Tonight. I'm Out South Florida senior reporter John Hayden. In this week's issue, the biggest LGBTQ plus athletic event in the world is coming to North America. We preview the Gay Games Guadalajara. Also, we preview Oakland Park parties and plans to expand the city's pride with a hometown vibe. And who's your favorite bartender? Which is your favorite restaurant? Who's your favorite TV personality? Voting is now open for Out South Florida's Your Choice Awards. I'm John Hayden. Those stories and more in Out South Florida, on stands now and always updated at outsfl.com.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
Well, now we finish tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up the worldview. Despite messages from far-right officials, hundreds marched in Serbian pride. Hundreds of pride activists gathered in the Serbian capital of Belgrade Saturday amid a heavy police presence and anti-gay messages sent by the country's conservative leadership and far-right groups. Last year, the LGBTQ plus event was marred by skirmishes between the police and anti-pride groups who believe the event goes against traditional Serbian Christian Orthodox values and should be banned. Marchers held banners reading, "We are not even close," referring to the current status of the gay population in Serbia. A heavy police presence of officers in riot gear blocked off central Belgrade. In a counter rally, about 50 anti-gay protesters and Orthodox priests held religious icons in front of a downtown church as the Pride event participants passed by.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up sports. UFC fighters apologize for anti-LGBTQ plus slurs after a match in Sydney. Charles Ratke won his first UFC match against Mike Blood Diamond Mathetha at UFC's 293 in Sydney this week. Instead of being a moment to cherish, it was marred by Ratke using homophobic slurs and swearing at spectators. He later apologized for his comment on X, formerly known as Twitter, stating that the slurs do not represent his true character and attributing his outburst to the emotions running high after his victory. Manel Kape also went on a tirade filled with expletives and homophobic slurs during UFC 293, targeting his original opponent, Kai Kara-France, who had to withdraw from the fight due to a concussion. Kape also apologized in a post-match interview, acknowledging that fighters sometimes say things they regret in the heat of the moment.
You used a homophobic slur in your post-fight interview. Dana White said you were sorry for this. I wanted to confirm that you are apologetic.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that. It's emotional, you know. During the fight, during the interview, we are all emotions. We say things that we don't want to say, but for who feel bad about that, I apologize.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up politics. California lawmakers end a travel ban to anti-LGBTQ plus states. California may soon lift a ban on state-funded travel to states with anti-LGBTQ plus laws and instead focus on an advertising campaign to bring anti-discrimination messages to red states. California started banning official travel to states with laws it deemed discriminatory against LGBTQ plus people in 2017, starting with Kansas, Mississippi, North Carolina, and Tennessee. Since then, the list has grown to include a total of 26 states, most of them Republican-led, following a surge of anti-LGBTQ plus legislation these past few years. The prohibition has prevented elected officials, state workers, and university scholars from traveling to more than half of the country using the state's money.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up South Florida and Florida. Lake Worth Beach becomes Florida's first LGBTQ plus sanctuary city.
Celebrations at Lake Worth Beach City Hall.
Would you call today a victory for the LGBTQ plus community?
Absolutely. We'll take any win we can at this point.
As commissioners,
All in favor? Aye.
voted unanimously to declare Lake Worth Beach a sanctuary city for LGBTQ plus individuals and their families.
I think it's time to take a stand that we affirmatively accept the people as they are.
This comes as the LGBTQ plus community says state legislation passed in Florida targets them.
So what's your plan of action to kind of continue that promise to keep them safe?
I will personally address that, and our city commission will address that, and the city staff will address that, because that is not acceptable.
The move was spearheaded by the Palm Beach County Human Rights Council.
So are there any other cities within Florida that are declared sanctuary cities for the LGBTQ plus community?
Not yet. Lake Worth Beach is the first.
For the last 35 years, the HRC has worked to enact laws to make things safe and equal for all.
And if we can't do anything about the people up in Tallahassee, at least we can do it here in our own backyard.
Lake Worth Beach is home of Palm Beach Pride, the Compass Resource Center, and multiple businesses considered safe spaces for the LGBTQ plus community.
We can't do it alone, so allies and allied businesses and community members are a huge part of our community, and we need to treasure them just as much.
And do we have that here in Lake Worth Beach?
Absolutely. I think that we have that in Palm Beach County.
The South Florida city of Lake Worth Beach has become the state's first to declare itself a safe haven for LGBTQ plus people and their families. City commissioners voted unanimously to declare the city a safe haven for LGBTQ plus people, approving a resolution reiterating the city's commitment to protecting human rights for all individuals. LGBTQ plus rights advocates described the vote to declare Lake Worth Beach an LGBTQ plus sanctuary as a step in the right direction. While Lake Worth Beach is the first Florida city to officially declare itself a sanctuary city, it is not the first state in the state to champion LGBTQ plus friendly policies. A 2016 report from Equality Florida found at least 40 cities had passed local ordinances strengthening sexual orientation and gender identity protections.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up the worldview. Prime Minister of Andorra comes out as gay. Andorran Prime Minister Xavier Espot Zamora has come out as gay. Andorra is a small country known for its ski areas that are nestled between Spain and France in the Pyrenees. He has been Prime Minister since 2019. The country's lawmakers in 2022 extended marriage rights to same-sex couples. The Prime Minister is one of a handful of heads of state and government who are openly gay or lesbian. During a recent interview with Radio and Television of Andorra, the country's public broadcaster, Zamora said, quote, "I'm gay. I've never hid it. I think it shouldn't be a problem to express it." End quote.
That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share the news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and of course, Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Bad Papi, John Hayden, and Gregg Shapiro, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you
good night.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ plus evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ plus community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News.